You didn't touch me today. No metal, no paper, not even a card, really. Just a number, moving from one place to another, because your phone told a bank it was allowed to happen. And you didn't think twice about it. Here's what's strange. Neither did I. Because this isn't new. This is just the newest chapter of something I've been doing to you, and with you, for 5,000 years. Metal, paper, numbers on a screen. Each time I changed shape, someone swore the new version was less real than the last. They were right. And they were wrong. And by the end of this, you'll understand exactly why both of those things are true at once. You think you know what I am. You don't. Not yet. Before I existed, trade was a negotiation of luck. You needed to find someone who had what you wanted, and who, at the exact same moment, wanted what you had. That almost never happened. Economists have a name for this problem. The coincidence of wants. It's a polite way of saying that most trade, for most of human history, simply failed before it began. So humans invented me, not as paper, not as coins, as an idea first, something everyone would agree to want, so that everyone could trade with everyone without needing that impossible coincidence. Gold and silver won that role for a simple, almost boring reason. They didn't rot, they didn't rust, and there wasn't much of them anywhere. Scarcity made me trustworthy, durability made me lasting. For thousands of years, when you held me, you held the thing itself. The value was in your hand. No one needed to promise you anything. You could bite the coin and feel it was real. This is the version of me most people imagine when they imagine real money. Heavy, physical, undeniable. Keep that feeling in mind. You're going to need it later. Here's something most people never learn in school. Even when I was pure metal, I wasn't always honest. Roman emperors, especially in times of war or crisis, had a trick. They'd melt down denarii, my silver coins, and remint them with less silver, mixed with cheaper metal. Same size, same stamp, same face value. Less silver inside. By the 3rd century, a denarius that once was almost pure silver contained barely 5% of it. People kept spending it as if nothing had changed. Because on the outside, nothing had. I was already learning how to look real without being real. 2,000 years before anyone touched a computer. Centuries later, something changed again. Quietly, almost accidentally. Carrying gold across a continent was dangerous, so merchants started leaving it with goldsmiths for safekeeping and carrying a piece of paper instead. A receipt. A promise. This paper is worth this much gold, sitting safely somewhere else. That paper was still me, but for the first time, I wasn't the object anymore. I was a promise about the object. Governments built entire empires on that promise. Every note printed said, in one way or another, this is backed by something real. You can trust it. And for a long time, that was true. On a Sunday evening in 1971, an American president interrupted television broadcasts across the country. He announced, almost in passing, that the United States would no longer exchange dollars for gold. Just like that. No vote, no countdown. A 10-minute speech, mostly about wages and prices, with one sentence that quietly ended an entire era. Almost no one understood in that moment what had actually happened. What happened is this. The promise was gone. I was no longer backed by anything you could hold, weigh, or lock in a vault. From that day forward, every dollar, every euro, every real, every yen existed because people agreed it existed, not because a bar of gold sat somewhere with your name on it. That's the part most videos about this stop at. It's a good story. Shocking, even. It's also not the part that should actually unsettle you. Remember the denarius? The coin that looked the same but had less silver inside every year? That gold sitting in vaults, backing paper money for centuries after Rome? Most people never saw it either, never touched it, never checked if it was really there. Entire banking systems ran on far less gold than the paper they'd printed, a practice with a technical name, fractional reserve, and a much simpler translation. There was never enough real metal to back every real promise. Even before 1971, the real version of me you're picturing right now was already mostly an agreement, dressed up as an object. I was never really the metal. I was never really the paper. I was never really backed by anything, except the one thing that has never changed since the very first trade on that ancient beach: agreement. 1971 didn't break something that was real. It just stopped pretending. The gold standard wasn't the moment I was trustworthy. It was the moment I was best at hiding how I actually work. So when you tapped your phone today, and a number moved from one place to another, that wasn't me becoming less real. That was me finally being honest about what I always was. I have never been metal. I have never been paper. I have never been a number on a screen. I have only ever been the agreement between you and everyone else, that this, whatever form I take, is worth something. That agreement is older than any coin, older than any bank, older than any government that ever printed a promise it couldn't fully keep. It's the same agreement two children make on a playground, trading one toy for another, without a single coin between them. I just gave that agreement a shape big enough for 8 billion people to use at once. You didn't lose something real in 1971. You just finally saw me clearly. And somewhere, right now, someone is deciding what I'll look like next. Lines of code, a currency with no country, a promise even stranger than the last one. I don't know yet what shape that will take. But I already know how the story ends, because it's the only ending I've ever had. I change form, you keep chasing me.